Good morning. Welcome to Church 180. All of you that are here physically with us and those of you that are watching on video, we welcome you. My name's Jim Ockenfel, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm going to be delivering the message today. We're going to look at Philippians again. Actually, Philippians 1:15 through 28. I'm not going to go all the way through 28. But I'm kind of an inquisitive guy. I don't know if you've ever picked up on that, those of you that know me, but it occurs to me that I didn't know a heck of a lot about the Philippian church or the city of Philippi. So I want to give a little context on that this morning. Philippi was a Roman colony. In fact, as I read, I used the app, the Bible app, and I was reading that as I was preparing this message. And the prelude to the book of Philippians, it says, on his second journey to bring the gospel to the Gentile world, the Apostle Paul helped start a church in the city of Philippi, a colony of retired Roman soldiers. And I went, wait, what? What's that all about? A colony of retired Roman soldiers. So I got on to that paragon of absolute truth called Wikipedia. And it says when Paul arrived in Philippi in AD 49, the city was one of the most important cities in eastern Macedonia. Luke refers to Philippi as a first city in the region. That's in Acts 16:12. If you want to read about Paul's interaction in Philippi, it would be in Acts 16:1 through 40, basically. And it was a pretty tumultuous visit that Paul had there in Philippi. So what's the deal with the retired Roman soldiers? Mark Antony began to settle retired veterans from the 23rd Legion in 42 BC after he defeated Cassius and Brutus. And after the Battle of Actium, Augustus refounded the city in 31 BC. There was at least 1,000 colonists settled in the city at that time, and the city was originally populated by veterans of Mark Antony's Praetorian Guard who had lost their claims to land in Italy. I found that quite interesting. I didn't realize Philippi was a Roman colony, a Roman city. And the more I read in Wikipedia, of course, Roman culture, they worshipped all kinds of gods. Between the Greeks and the Romans, they had the god of thunder and the god of war and the god of sex and the god of, whatever. So the god they worshipped there in Philippi was Diana. There are over 80 different pieces that they picked up in the excavation and the archaeology about Diana. So it was a very pagan Roman city, which gives me, now I know why he had so much conflict when he was there preaching what? Jesus is Lord, not Caesar. Jesus is Lord. So as we start into reading this particular portion of the book of Philippians, keep that in mind, because they also picked up in the archaeology pieces of displays that were in the city, and in Greek and in Hebrew, two different pieces, Jesus is Lord was what was engraved on it. So Paul had a dramatic impact in that city of Philippi, and they were very close to him in his heart. So let's get started. If this thing works. There we go. All right. It is true that some preach Christ out of envy and rivalry, but others out of goodwill. The latter do so out of love, knowing that I am put here for the defense of the gospel. Put here where? Where was Paul at this point?
In care.
In prison, in
chains.
In chains, in what?
Rome.
He was in Rome. The former preach Christ out of selfish ambition, not sincerely, supposing they can stir up trouble for me while I am in chains. What does it matter? The important thing is that in every way, whether from false motives or true, Christ is preached, and because of this, I rejoice. Yes, and I will continue to rejoice, for I know that through your prayers and God's provision of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, what has happened to me will turn out for my deliverance. I eagerly expect and hope that I will in no way be ashamed, but will have sufficient courage, so that now, as always, Christ will be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. If I am going to go on living in the body, this will mean fruitful labor for me. Yet what shall I choose? I do not know. I am torn between the two. I desire to depart and be with Christ, which is better by far. But it is more necessary for you that I remain in the body. Convinced of this, I know that I will remain, and I will continue with all of you for your progress and joy in the faith, so that through my being with you again, your boasting in Christ Jesus will abound on account of me. Whatever happens, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Then whether I come and see you or only hear about you in my absence, I will know that you stand firm in the one Spirit, striving together as one for the faith of the gospel, without being frightened in any way by those who oppose you. So, number of things in that section of the first chapter of Philippians that caught my attention. One of the things that caught my attention was verse 21. I think all of us that have been Christians for a week or two probably know that verse. For me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. What's that mean to you? Real question. What's that mean to you?
About it. Just exactly what he says. To live to what? For Paul, either to live or to die, as long as he died in Christ, it was a king.
Excuse me. That what caught me is I've always looked at it and gone, when I die, that's going to be gain for me because I'm going to be in heaven. I'll be with God. I'll be with Christ. Gain. To die is gain. Death has visited my family this week. One of my two remaining sisters died this week from Alzheimer's. Mary had just turned 82 the week before, and she lost that battle with Alzheimer's. What went through my mind was dying gain for her? What? For me to live as Christ and to die as gain. And I really, as I said, I really get that second part, to die as gain. And I'm wondering, was it gain for Mary? I don't know. I can't say that for sure, one way or the other. And as Terry always points out to me, there's only two people who know if you're a Christian or not, and that's you and God. Nobody else knows for sure. So, what should we take from that? For me, I start now backing up on that verse and looking at the first part of it. To live is Christ. What does to live is Christ mean? I got that the dying is gain part, but what does to live as Christ actually mean? So in my brain, Paul was saying throughout that particular passage that we just read, everything that Jesus did and said, that's what he wanted to do and say. The church benefited from his godly example, because he says in 1 Corinthians 11:1, follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. I'm going to twist a phrase that most of you are familiar with. What would Jesus do? Do you remember that from the 90s? All of you were around in the 90s, I know. There were WWJD bracelets all over the place. They were ubiquitous in especially the youth of Christianity at that time. Lots and lots. My son and my daughter both wore WWJD bracelets. That wasn't a bad thing. It put the focus on Jesus. I think, however, in 1 Corinthians 11:1 that I just read, that the Apostle Paul was saying not what would Jesus do. He was saying, what did Jesus do? So I'd like to change that acronym WWJD to WDJD for us. What did Jesus do? And that's what we're supposed to do. Now, I'm not saying that we're supposed to go out and heal the blind and, heal people that have leprosy, raise people from the dead. The miracles that Jesus performed while he was here with us. And I'm not discounting that miracles can happen. They certainly do. But that's not, I think, what the focus is. I think in this statement, the Apostle Paul is saying that everything he's tried to be, everything he is, and everything he looked forward to being pointed to Christ and Christ alone. From the time of his conversion, he got knocked off of a horse, if you remember, until his martyrdom. Every move he made was aimed at advancing the knowledge of the gospel and the church of Jesus Christ. Paul's singular aim was to bring glory to Jesus Christ. So he said, I'm following his example, you follow my example. So I'm saying, what did Jesus do? That's what we should be focused on. How can we do what Jesus did? That's how it was. In Philippians 1:27, he goes on to say, whatever happens, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Okay, what's that mean? Conduct yourselves in a manner worthy. In the second chapter of Philippians, we haven't got there yet in our study, but I have. Paul tells the Philippians to lay down their pride and humbly serve one another as Jesus Christ did when he walked the earth. He set the model, Jesus did, in our relationship with others. Philippians 2:7, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on the cross. That's Philippians 2:8. Anything less than conducting ourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel falls short of what Jesus did. WDJD. What did Jesus do? In these passages, Paul suggests that walking in a manner worthy of the gospel, what's that look like? Our actions should match our message. Our outward presentation should align with our inward convictions. All we have to do is look at the life of Christ in every circumstance, every situation. And I fall dreadfully short of that. Unfortunately, my humanness gets in the way. And I look back at a situation and go, dang it, I should have done what Jesus did. I should have responded differently rather than reacting. I had a instructor at one point explain to me the difference. People will say, well, how did you react to that? I hear that frequently. The better question is, how did you respond to that? And this teacher put it this way. He said, if you're given a medication, which would you rather do? Respond to it or react to it? Reaction isn't necessarily negative all the time, but it tends to lie on the negative side of things. What we're looking for, walking as Jesus did, what did Jesus do? Is to respond to the circumstances that we run into. Paul, he preached in synagogues, he preached at riversides, he preached in prisons, he preached as an apostle, he preached as a tent maker. He didn't like other preachers charge money for his services. He went out, got a job in the cities that he was in, and the phrase that they use is he was a tent maker. Now, did he actually make tents? I don't know. Not sure we've got any archaeological evidence to say that. His message, though, was constant. Jesus Christ and him crucified. 1 Corinthians 2:2. He shared the good news of Christ's sacrifice to everyone. To everyone. He didn't just use words, though. He shared it with everyone, no matter who they were. Prisoners, kings, soldiers, nobles, priests, philosophers, slaves, Jews, Romans, Gentiles, men, women, children. He would share with literally anyone that he could get to listen to him. But he lived out what he believed. To live as Christ means that we must make Christ first in our lives. With the Holy Spirit's help, we can give up, and we have to give up, anything that comes before Christ in our lives. Any of you got any of those? I find that mine. I mean, that's rhetorical. I don't know what you answer, but it's true in my life. You know, I find myself worrying about something. And then that worry is basically saying, okay, I don't think you got this. Of course he does. It's me that has the wrong focus. He's got this. So we must give up anything that comes before Christ in our lives. Later on in Philippians, Paul writes, whatever were gains to me, I now consider loss for the sake of Christ. What is more, I consider everything a loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord, for whose sake I have lost all things. I consider them garbage, that I may gain Christ and be found in him. And that's in Philippians 3:7-9. We'll come to that in a few months. So, going back, what does to live as Christ mean to you? For a question.
Yeah.
Well, in your individual life, what does to live as Christ mean to you?
It sets a standard. It sets a goal. It's a guideline. Do to be what we should do and be. I mean, it's like you said, to the best of our ability. And you're not going to. You can't be Christ. You can't be perfect. But we can try. We can focus on Him, and not on the dishes or whatever. Yeah. I don't do dishes anyways.
Yeah.
It's guideline. It's a way to live. It's yeah, a guide.
Yeah. Last Sunday, Joe covered the Beatitudes as part of Philippians. He pulled those two together masterfully, I might say. But the Beatitudes, when you think about those, as he pointed out last Sunday, Christ was giving us guidelines. And we look at those guidelines that Terry just mentioned and go, okay, how do I do that? And, you know, we kind of banged around on being meek. And what's that look like? Is that being a wimp or not? The one thing I can say about all of the study that I've done of Jesus Christ, he was not a wimp. He knew the truth, and he spoke the truth, and he lived the truth. Paul knew the truth, he spoke the truth, and he lived the truth. To live as Christ, for us, do we know the truth? Do we speak the truth? Do we live the truth? That's the example that Jesus set, that Paul followed, and it exhorted us to follow. When my sister Mary died, was it gain for her? I asked that question to start, and I'm circling back around to it. And again, I don't know. All I can say is I shared the good news of Jesus Christ with her multiple times. What she did with that, only God and she know. So if we are followers of Jesus Christ, then there should be strong evidence that we are. If someone interacts with us, do they walk away going, didn't see anything outstanding about that person, didn't see anything other than what I see in the rest of culture? Or do they see something that they want? There was an individual that played quite a role in my wife's spiritual journey. His name is Joe Hornefs. He was a worship leader at the church that we were attending. And the very first time that Terry came to that church with kind of a spirit of, what the heck is my husband who left me trying to do? What's his game? And the church had big monitors, so they did close-ups. And Joe sang a song called, I Don't Want to Be a Casual Christian. Terry later on shared with me and with others that when she saw his face on the big monitor, he was so passionate about what he was singing. She said, I knew he believed what he was singing. And she said, I had this sense inside of me. I want what he's got. I want that faith. I want that belief. Those weren't the words necessarily that she elicited at that time, but coalescing it, that's what was going on. And he didn't have a clue that there were two non-Christians sitting in the pews or seats while he was singing that song. He had no idea. God used him. He believed. He lived. He spoke the truth. He reflected it. And that played a significant role in both of our journeys to Christ. So here's what I'm going to go back to. If you're a believer, if you're saved, then there should be strong evidence that salvation is real in your life. If I'm saved, then there should be strong evidence that I'm saved. And that doesn't mean we have to be holier than thou. It doesn't mean that we have to be so heavenly minded we're no earthly good. We're called to be earthly good, but reflecting the truth, speaking the truth, living the truth. Now I have a little harder question, and I'm not asking it necessarily of all the people in the room with me right now. I'm asking it of all of you who are watching the video. If some way, somehow you happen to end up watching this video and you're not a believer, I have a question. Where are you going to spend eternity? I know where I'm going to spend eternity. I hope I will see my sister Mary, but I don't know for sure. I know others that I'm going to see there. I'm certain of that. And I want to be able to hear the words, well done, good and faithful servant, from my Lord and Savior. Oh, yeah, no. But I also want to hear that from people who know me. Then,
Goldie.
yes, I want to walk worthy. That's what Paul calls us to do in Philippians 2:7. Walk worthy. Or not 2:7, sorry, second chapter, Philippians, early on in the second chapter. Walk worthy. That is
Then again,
very strong, convicted marching order that Paul gives us. So can we walk worthy? And can we reflect like Job or destined to someone who isn't a believer the hope that we have inside of us?
Unreal.